There is a range of human connection in partnership. What I'm calling is a golden relationship. Some people call it the one or a soulmate, where people are making a decision to merge their lives and intertwine their lives together to create a life together. That there is essentially some parameters that within those parameters, there's a high chance that they're going to have a healthy, balanced, beautiful, fulfilling relationship, including sexuality. And one question that I have for you is, where is that sweet spot specifically with polarity between two people? Hello, hello. I am here with Ananda Sarita, and I'm very excited because arguably this woman helped bring Tantra to the West many years ago. And my understanding is you've dedicated your life to really trying to bring forth healthier sexuality, more connection with self and others. And in the connection map, one of the major categories is sexuality. And I'd love just to start and hear a little bit and tell everyone, what are some of the things that you've done in this field that maybe you're proud of or you feel like had a difference in the world?
One of the primary aims of mine is to dispel myths around Tantra. So one of the myths is that Tantra is only about sexuality, because actually sexuality is one of two poles of our energy system. So one pole is our instinctual nature, sexuality, the other is our spiritual nature. Many people dream of having the ultimate orgasm with the universe. How far can we go into our inner ecstasy? And that's only possible if we explore our sexuality in depth, bringing awareness to it, the awareness that comes with meditation. So in Tantra, we are utilizing the merging of love and meditation, which are basically the opposites of male and female, meditation and love, with meditation being the masculine path and love being the feminine path. So we bring these together. This becomes the path of Tantra. And so Tantra will bring a meditative and loving awareness to every single aspect of life, whether that be our sexuality, our senses, Kundalini energy, chakra system, expanded states of consciousness, all is included. So it's this map that I'm very dedicated to bringing to the world, because actually sexuality is nothing if you don't have love, and also it's nothing if you don't include spirit. These are all interconnected. We can't disassociate one from the other. So when you have a spiritually infused sex, this is when you will find fulfillment. Otherwise, no fulfillment is possible.
Can you tell me a little bit? You used some words that not everyone may be familiar with, and I would love just to get at a very foundational level what some of these words mean to you so others can understand. Like the word spirit, I have to be honest, I'm still not exactly sure what that means on a practical sense. I understand from conceptually, but for someone that studied this, what does spirit mean to you, Sarita?
People may have different terminologies. It all points to the same thing. When the American Indian indigenous culture, they would call spirit the Great Spirit. Or if you go into India, you might call that spiritual awakening as enlightenment, when all the lights get switched on in your brain. And the ultimate achievement of any human being is that state of enlightenment. And in Tantra, this is called Mahamudra, which means the great gesture arising out of the ultimate orgasm with the universe. So orgasm happens with our genital organs, but also orgasm can happen has an experience in each of the chakras and also in the brain with the merging of the right and left sides of the brain, the yin and the yang meeting through the corpus callosum, the midbrain. As that happens, all the lights get switched on in our brain, and we are attuned to something which is beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the emotions. And this is called the space which is never born, never died. The space from where everything comes to where everything returns.
When you speak of the spirit and you talk about the enlightenment, or the Native Americans say the great spirit, they also used to say the great mystery, which, to be honest, I've adopted personally this idea of the great of knowing that there is something that we are either inside of or connected to or come from. And the reality is we may not have all the ability to understand it completely, or I don't know if I have the tools or the sensory perceptions to be able to understand it completely. So for me, it feels like a mystery. So would you say spirit is just really whatever it is in this universe that we are inside of or part of or one with? Or is that how you feel spirit
Yes.
is?
I think everybody feels it at some point in their life. It's a state, when you enter into a state of awe and you feel you are one with all that is. Sometimes it happens when you're just looking at a sunset, an incredibly beautiful sunset, and the beauty is so tremendous. It brings that state of awe and gratitude, a state of wonder. This is when we are tuned to that great spirit. And maybe I can say it in a very physical terminology that people will understand. Inside of our own body, we have a whole pharmacy of feel-good hormones and feel-good, actually, drugs. So we have an inner pharmacy inside which we can tap into. Now, one of these drugs that we have inside is called DMT. DMT gives visions, psychedelic visions, as if you're on psychedelic drugs, a feeling of oneness, connection with something that we could call God or goddess or godliness, visions of other dimensions, other worlds, beings of light, angelic beings. So all this happens naturally when DMT is released in our brain. And this DMT is connected to our pineal gland, also known as the gland of light. And this is linked to the third eye and higher consciousness. So the times that DMT is naturally released in the human being is at birth for both mother and child, if it's a natural birth, and at the time of orgasm, if it is a full body orgasm. Many times women particularly have this experience because they tend to go more into full body orgasm than men, even though men can also access this, but they will need a certain amount of training in Tantra to be able to access it. Another moment DMT is released is at the time of death. This happens very naturally. And another moment is when someone is in very deep meditation. When we're in deep meditation, it is synonymous with the experience of death. So the body will release DMT. That's why yogis or people that meditate will experience a quality known as samadhi, spiritual realization, when in deep meditation. So this drug, being naturally present in the human being, is accessible, and the search for spirituality and simultaneously the search for orgasm and the greatest high is the search to experience this. It's the same kind of search. and it is available to every human being. When we do Tantra practices, we're tapping into our natural inner pharmacy, into feel good hormones, into those inner drugs. Now, the thing is, when we take outer drugs, it inhibits the natural production of our inner pharmacy. And this is what a lot of people don't realize, that every time you reach for a drug outside of yourself, you're cutting off the production of that inner drug. And a very simple example of that is sugar. You reach for refined sugar, the natural production of glucose, of natural glucose from inside of your body, which is the primary food for the brain, will be cut off. So then your body becomes dependent on that outer glucose, which doesn't feed your brain. So your brain is being literally starved when you take that external white refined sugar. Of course, most people don't know these things, but it is important that we go on a journey to discover ourselves. And one of the things that drives human beings is to find that ultimate orgasm. That's why people go on changing their partners, because they're something inside of them is saying, I want to find the greatest high that my hormones can take me to. And if it's not happening with this partner, oh, I need to go and search for another partner. So this search keeps driving us onward. But actually, even with the partner we are with, if we can just stop, okay, what is the potential in this relationship? And start on the journey of Tantra, where we're expanding our potential for inner ecstasy, we will find that high that we're looking for. Of course, it depends if we are sexually compatible with this person, because chemistry plays a very, very important role in our satisfaction. If there's no chemistry, we can't find fulfillment with that particular partner. So we have to determine if we have enough chemistry, if we have enough compatibility, then we can go on a journey together through Tantra. And this has been one of my primary works. I've been teaching Tantra since 1990, and I've been on the Tantra path since 1973 when I met Osho in India. He became my spiritual master. I stayed in his community for 26 years, studying Tantra meditation, also holistic healing, and so then started teaching in 1990. Now, one of my primary work has been the work with couples. I created 7 levels of Tantra explicitly for couples so they can go on a journey that takes them deeper into not only sexuality, but also love, intimacy, and ultimately a spiritual experience, a spiritually infused sexuality and connection. And of course, this brings that quality of ultimate fulfillment.
Wow, Sarita, I have to say, when I hear some of these stories of being in Osho's community for 26 years, and I know that you've written many books, and maybe you can walk us through all the books that you've written. And a lot of them are about couples really connecting and becoming soulmates and finding through sexuality and meditation together. And God, I can't even imagine the stories that you have to tell. And I might ask you about a few of them later. I think the thing that when it comes to human connection and sexuality, what some of the ways that I've broken them down is more from a scientific aspect of trying to understand what are the aspects that we can really categorize in a quantitative way. For example, some of the simple ones that I put in there is an attraction, right? Am I attracted? Part of a connection with someone is the attraction. The higher the attraction, it affects your connection, right? And if there's no attraction, then it also affects your connection. Another one is your openness for sexuality and your received openness for sexuality. So in other words, I may have an openness for sexuality with you, but you may not have any for me. And as we know, when that's off balance, that really affects our connection. Another one, very simply, is have you been sexual? And I believe if you've been sexual or not, that affects the way that you connect with someone. And how long ago was that? If it was yesterday or if it was 20 years ago, that also is something that can be more, that is going to affect. And the last two that I really want to focus with you on is one is sexual alignment. And you just started speaking about this of, you called it the, what is the chemistry, and then the last one is polarity, which you've also already touched on when you mentioned the yin and the yang. And I would love to focus a little bit more on, first of all, polarity, because I feel like this is not a word that most people are familiar with. It's a concept that comes from the East with yin yang. Many people in Tantra or in the world call it masculine and feminine. I actually have a bit of a problem with that, and I don't love that because as you can talk about, we know that masculine and feminine can be in both genders or in any sort of flavor of sexuality or sexual preference, or at least I've perceived it that way in my understanding. So I would love to talk about this idea of polarity and masculine, feminine. What's a way that we can explain it to an average person or someone without, that hasn't spent weeks inside of Tantra workshops and ISTA and your workshops? How do we explain this idea of polarity to someone, especially when it comes to the how it affects the connection? Because if you have two people that are very masculine, if they're female or male, female, or whatever, we know that that really impacts the connection strongly. So I'd love to, that was a lot of words, but the simple question is polarity. How can you describe it from all this experience that you've had?
It's very simple. Just imagine two magnets. Maybe you've played with magnets before. You have in the magnet a positive end of the magnet and a receptive end. So if you want the magnet to come together, you have to put the positive and the receptive, and then they're drawn together with a magnetic force and they stick together. Everybody knows that, okay? Now, if you take two receptive poles of the magnet, they come together, but there's no energy there. There's nothing happening. If you put two positive poles of the magnet together, they can't meet. They repel each other. Yeah. So it's the same in the human being. You need the positive and receptive polarities in order for there to be a strong connection and meeting. And this positive and receptive polarity is weaving through all of our existence, night and day, summer and winter, male and female, yin and yang, sex and spirit. All of these polarities are helping us to keep a dynamic balance in our formed world. So the thing that a lot of people get confused about is that this yin and yang weaving through all of creation is also present inside each human body. We each have an inner male, inner female, inner yin, inner yang, however you want to call it, doesn't matter. You can call it positive and receptive magnetic polarities, yin and yang. I think yin and yang is a very elegant way of saying it. So even if you have a same gender bonding, one of them is going to tend to be more yin and one more yang. It will just play out like that. If you have two homosexuals, they talk about top or bottom. Are you a top or are you a bottom? Knowing if they will be compatible or not. If there's two tops, most likely they're not going to stay together. You need a top and you need a bottom. You understand? So even in that world of homosexuality, people are defining themselves, not calling it male, female, not saying yin and yang, but they're still following that same principle. Because all of life follows that principle. We can't avoid that because it's simply the way life functions in our formed world. And in Tantra, we search for that meeting of the inner male, inner female. The outer male or female is mirroring our own inner male or female, or you could call it yin, yang. Now, there's the yin yang symbol, and this is very important to understand how this functions also on the spiritual level, whether that's sexual, whether that's spiritual. The white part of the yin yang symbol is yang. But in that white, you have a dark circle. Then you have the other side of the yin yang symbol, which is black. And in that black, there is a white circle. So this is very symbolic that if we travel a yang path, eventually it's going to take us into a portal that pops through into yin. If we travel the yin path, eventually it will take us into a portal that pops through into yang. So the yang path is witnessing and meditation, and that is symbolized through many different forms. For example, martial arts, that will be a yang path, which includes witnessing and meditation within it. So it's an active meditation practice. If we travel the yin path, that will be focused more on love and devotion. And as we continue deeper along that path, we will automatically pop through or flower into meditation, into witnessing, into yang.
That's beautiful. So the yin, if I'm not mistaken, yin is there's yin, which also might be called feminine, and also might be, what did you also call it? Positively or negatively charged?
This would be receptive polarity.
Receptive. So yin, feminine, receptive, and yang, masculine,
Outgoing, positive.
positive. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So these are polarities. We all have that inside of us. And in India, there's a wonderful statue, which is called the Ardhanareshvara. And this is a depiction of God as half male, half female. So in the statue itself, that on one side of the statue, there's a breast, there's a longer skirt. On the other side of the statue, there's no breast, there's the male phallus. So it's a God, which is half male, half female. And this is giving that transmission that this is where we're going, the merging of our own inner male, inner female. And there are just hundreds of different meditation methods in Tantra that help us to move towards that experience. I'm reminded of one very beautiful meditation coming from the Taoist tradition, but which has been given to the world by Osho. So he speaks about this method. He even created some music to go with it. And the method is very simple. We just lay down on our bed and we envision, we feel, we sense that with every in-breath, we breathe in golden light from the top of our head down through our body all the way to the feet. And with every out-breath, we breathing and imagining darkness moving from the feet all the way up to the head. And we continue this breathing practice for 20 minutes. This is going to balance the yin and the yang inside of ourselves. And with it comes a tremendous sense of peace and inner balance, inner alignment, inner equanimity. It's a very simple method. It's designed to be done either just before sleep or just on waking. And that will create this sense of peace and equanimity throughout the entire day. It brings that merging of yin and yang inside of ourselves.
I would imagine it's also bringing that person into an alpha brainwave state, which is also a place that we can manifest things and really get in tune with what you're calling spirit. Sarita, I have a very important question that has been a question that I have been curious about my whole life, which is surrounding polarity, which is I have noticed some patterns with myself and my partners or women that I have been with that I tend to have a lot of that yang, the yang or the positively charged and or masculine. And I tend to be attracted to women that have a lot of femininity or yin.
Mm-hmm.
And some things that I've noticed is that if there's a very strong polarity, or the stronger the polarity, the more yin that they have or femininity, I have a stronger sexual attraction to them, number
Mm-hmm.
one, like
Mm-hmm.
a much stronger desire and a wanting. And then generally the sexuality is just amazing. It brings me into this place of spirit. And to be honest, very many times, even in a place of like almost like a psychedelic space.
Mm-hmm.
And those partners that maybe there isn't as much polarity, they the sexuality isn't maybe as exciting or isn't as spiritual or psychedelic or mind-blowing. But I've noticed that part. And the second part of that, it seems to be a correlated to the amount of stability and safety associated with it. Essentially, it felt like this narrative of the higher the polarity, the more femininity, the more desire, the better sex, but the more volatility and the more like either anxious attachment or the feeling of insecure or just like less stable. And the less the polarity, the more stability, but not as good sex. And it felt like there was this slider and I could only pick one way or the other. And I'm trying to dispel that narrative, specifically with my current partner, but it's still there. And I would love your opinion on this. Do you feel this is a truth, or is this just a narrative?
This is truth.
Okay, I'm screwed then. Okay, got it.
No, but the thing is, what is needed here is to bring meditation into that experience. If you make sex a consciousness practice, then you are literally unveiling the jewels that it has to offer. So we're just touching into that now. And I just described something that happens in sex, which is linked to this polarity, which is really exquisite. Many people don't get to experience it because they don't have the patience, because they're in such a hurry. So there's that famous joke of a guy that was, or a couple that was on a farm, and then a couple of Martians landed their spaceship, and then the couple welcomed them. Oh, come for breakfast. Okay, and they started talking, and then they were asking them, okay, how is sex on your planet? So then the Martian said that we have sex, and then the sex finishes, and then a Martian pops out, baby Martian. That's it. And then the couple, the human couple, they said, "Oh, that's interesting, because for us we have sex, but then it takes 9 months. We have to wait for the baby to grow in the womb. Then after 9 months, the baby comes out." And the Martian said, "Oh, that's really fascinating. But how do you do it? Can you show us?" So then they showed each other how they have sex. First the Martian couple, then the human couple was having sex. And then the Martian said, "Oh, but if the baby takes him 9 months to grow, why were you in such a hurry?" So this is the thing with human sexuality, that we tend to be too much in a hurry. Like, we see the goal, we go for it. Okay, that's it, and peak high, and it's all yang and finished. Now, if we can include yin in our sexuality, so we go through waves of yang, waves of yin. This is called the peaks and valleys meditation. And you can literally make love for hours, moving in these cycles of yin and yang in the lovemaking itself. This is going to bring ultimate fulfillment to the sex act. Now, one thing that happens when you do this is there will be a meeting of that yin and yang inside. And I just give an example of that. When the tip of the lingam is kissing the cervix. When I say kissing, a lingering kiss, because if you're only doing pounding, thrusting, and that's it, you will miss this experience. You need to be in stillness inside and with the tip of the lingam kissing the cervix. And what happens there is a circle of energy will start being created, which I call the tantric circle, where energy begins spinning faster and faster between these polarities of male and female in that union. And as that happens, suddenly the couple doesn't know anymore who is the male, who is the female. The borders have disappeared, and the energy is spinning so fast that you merge and become one. There's no more male, no more female. Just this oneness happens. But the doorway into that experience is that losing of your yang and your yin. So suddenly the man will feel, oh, I'm a woman. And the woman will feel, oh, I'm a man. And they get confused. And then it spins. And finally, polarity disappears. You are one. And simultaneously, you're one with all that is. That oneness goes beyond just our human form. It starts including everything, leading to a psychedelic feeling of being one with all that is. So, playing with polarity is bringing so much richness into our sexual dynamic. And this experience that I'm describing happens between the first and the second chakras. So the chakras are also playing into this. And you can experience this not only between first and second chakra, but in all of the chakras. When all of our chakras are aligned together with our partner, that becomes the experience of the soulmate. So when we go on the journey of Tantra together as a couple, we're opening into that soulmate experience. We're opening to that merging of all the 7 chakras with our partner. And it's a very refined work. It's not just something that happens, by chance. Sometimes people have the experience by chance, but then usually they have it one time and then they're waiting for 30 years till it happens again. When we do Tantra practices, we can attain to that quality over and over again. It becomes normal. We live on a steady diet of miracles.
So my question is, would you say when looking for what I'm calling is a golden relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Some people call it the one or a soulmate, because I want to take away the idea that there might only be one.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to say is there is a range of human connection in partnership where people are making a decision to merge their lives and intertwine their lives together to create a life together, that there is essentially some parameters that when they're within those parameters, there's a high chance that they're going to have a healthy, balanced, beautiful, fulfilling relationship, including sexuality. And one question that I have for you is, where is that sweet spot specifically with polarity between two people? Do we want it as far as apart as each other, or do we want it a little bit, maybe not as extreme polarity, like way over to the side, but definitely not over to the other side, but somewhere's in the medium high range? Is there a sweet spot that you've noticed that creates the best chances? Because when it's too high, like I said, you end up wanting to have sex and make love all the time, but maybe there's more volatility there. But if it's too far in the other direction, it's like a friend, and it tends to fizzle out, and you don't have that as excitement to, oh my God, I need you so badly and I want you. You're like, yeah, let's watch Netflix every day and take a trip together, but maybe the love or the lovemaking isn't as strong. So do we want it as the polarity as high as possible, or somewhere's near the top, somewhere's near the middle? What would you say in that?
Basically, we need to be interested in the opposite. So, for example, if you are with a woman, you need to understand, how does yin function? How does woman function? She needs to understand, how does man function? So there is a greater degree of empathy. That empathy is the sweet spot. And I just give an example of preparing to go into sexual union. The preparation for a woman is entirely opposite to the preparation for a man. And most people don't realize that. So they screw it up because they're expecting the opposite to function like they do. And then that will kill the polarity. It will also kill the divine connection that can happen through our sexuality. And I just give the basic facts according to biology. The woman needs 20 to 40 minutes of erotic play before penetration. When the woman has orgasm, she stays on the orgasmic plateau for 20 minutes, ready for more orgasms. Now take the man, exactly opposite. The man can be ready for sexual union, including penetration, even for some men, including ejaculation, taking just 3 minutes. If he has ejaculation, he needs to rest for 20 minutes approximately to recharge his system, because he just released 500 million sperms, so enough to populate the whole of the United States. So obviously he's very tired and he needs to rest and rejuvenate. The woman is still on the plateau, ready for more orgasms. This is indicating to us that sexuality is not just getting together and fucking. It's an art form. We have to learn how to navigate these differences between the male and the female. And rather than blaming each other, we need to simply understand, have that empathic connection to the opposite, and try to put ourselves in the other one's shoes and to provide what each of the other one needs. So this is an art and a science, actually. And I've created a whole online course devoted to that, as well as a live course called Master Lover: How to Help Men and Women to Understand How They Function Opposite and Yet Complementary, and how to navigate through those differences. And it is actually very important, because a lot of relationships break down over this discrepancy. Now let's go back to ancient China, where Taoist Tantra was very prevalent. I was reading a scripture from that time, and in the scripture they say something very interesting, that a man should learn the art of how to sexually please the woman. And as part of that art, he's looking for how she's breathing, the color of her skin, the quality of the sweat, the sounds that she's making. So he's navigating his way through all of this and bringing her to a state where she begs him with tears in her eyes to penetrate her. And they say a man should not penetrate a woman unless she has reached to that state where she's begging him with tears in her eyes, because she's been aroused to near delirium by all the artistry that he has demonstrated previous to that. So this is just one example, something that we've almost completely lost in our culture. Because you have Tinder, for example, or different dating apps. So people meet up just like you would meet for coffee. They meet up, have sex, and finished. So I call this instant sex. That will not provide the artistry needed to navigate the difference between male and female. And basically, a lot of times it's the woman who feels entirely dissatisfied. But what men don't know is that they are also denying themselves of the greatest high possible for their hormonal system by ignoring these polarities, by not moving with the artistry of sexuality.
Wow, that class sounds like something that I think everyone should take for their partner. And you're thinking, I wish my partner had taken that class.
Exactly, really
Me-
important. Because one of the things, like I'm talking about the woman, but for the man also, men are being denied their natural opening into sexuality. And one of the most important natural openings into sexuality for the masculine is his lingam. Lingam means pillar of light. This is a Sanskrit word for the male genitals, for the penis. It's a very beautiful word, so I prefer it to the English word because the English words we use are like they're all linked to suppression, basically. Like we feel somehow shame around those words. Lingam gives the natural pride to the male organ. Pillar of light, this is an amazing term for the lingam, for the penis. Now, this lingam traditionally in India is worshipped. It is the embodiment of God. And I believe every man needs to be worshipped at his first chakra, his lingam. This will create such a sense of power, but not power over. It's the power of integrating his essential nature, his potential as a godliness, as a quality of godliness or divinity, which is embodied. And the sign of that divinity is in his lingam. That needs to be worshipped. So if a woman begins the sexual play or the erotic play with a man by honoring and worshipping his lingam, he will feel seen and understood, and automatically then his heart will open. It will happen just like that. It's the same if you start by connecting with a woman's heart through love, through romance. She will naturally want to open her sex to you. If you bypass the romance, her legs stay closed. Or maybe they will open, but you won't experience being met. You won't experience being received fully and deeply. Because in the
so
male,
I,
there's differences in the male and female brain also. And this is something I think that people have not studied, how the female brain or the male brain are different and how that impacts the sexuality directly. So we need to understand our biology. Through that, we can understand how our sexuality functions. And through that, also, we will be able to open into greater spiritual states together. If we bypass understanding our biology and respecting it, we completely lost in a jungle.
I still am unclear on your opinion on, do you feel like when choosing a partner, are we best choosing a partner with the greatest polarity to our own? Or do we want it? Where do we want that polarity? What's the range in choosing a partner in that human connection, in that sexuality? Do we want it the greatest as possible?
Yes, it's very good if there's a good polarity. However, as I said, the sweet spot is that empathy. If that polarity is not capable of opening to its opposite, then it will be somehow screwed up, the connection.
Mm.
The male polarity needs to have an understanding of the feminine. The feminine polarity needs to have an understanding of the masculine. That means meditation. It means understanding your own inner male, inner female, so that the persons are capable of being at the far end of the range of the spectrum, but also of moving into the opposite easily and naturally. And that comes through meditation, meditating on those polarities inside of ourselves. So, for example, I said the feminine path is love and devotion, but that feminine also needs to learn meditation, witnessing. The masculine path is witnessing and meditation, but he also needs to understand feminine. He needs to understand love and devotion. Otherwise, the meeting will not happen effectively. And one of the ways to discern if a partner is a right partner for us is to do human design. In ancient times in India and even today, they would have an astrologer determining if a couple is well matched or not, because we can see it through the Vedic astrology. Likewise, human design is a modern approach to understanding if we are well matched with someone. And I always encourage new couples, please get your human design done to see if this is just a temporary connection or if it has longevity potential. If you have enough electromagnetics to be well connected sexually, or conversely, maybe you have too many electromagnetics, which will mean volatile connection with a lot of fighting and hysteria and etc. Too much electromagnetics. And then another aspect is how many compromises do you have one to the other? If one has too many compromises to the other one, the relationship will not work. So we have to see, are we well balanced before putting your energy, effort, time into a relationship. So I always say, go first for human design, see if you're well matched. If you are, good, go forward with this relationship. If the human design is showing that you're not well matched, don't bother, because you're just going to end up separating. It will definitively happen.
I have a lot of questions on that, but before I don't want to go in that direction because it's a whole nother conversation of where did the Vedic astrology come from? What year was it made? How do we know it's true? How did they know? I have a lot of questions on that. And I actually tend to feel resistance on only matching people by their birth time and date, thus creating an entire framework that is asking a lot of questions to feel and to try to figure out what is really there in the connection and whether that's going to be healthy or balanced. Mm-hmm. Because I do believe that even if a big part of a healthy connection is where you are in your life path and journey. For example, in your work, if you were to take the Sarita 40, 50 years ago and the skill level that you had, the knowledge that you had, the understanding of this polarity, the yin yang, masculine, feminine, lovemaking, and compare it to the amount of expertise you have now, your birth date is still the same, yet you're at a very different place in your life. And I believe that your partners also, that affects your connection with your partners, like your knowledge and where you are and what you want in your life is a very important aspect of that connection. Mm-hmm. So an important question is this: if someone has a relationship and the polarity is not super strong, right? But it's a really amazing, beautiful, balanced, healthy. Their communication's incredible. The trust is really high. There's deep love. There's a lot of effort, a lot of benefit. Everything is really great. But in the sexuality department or the polarity, there's a lot of similarities, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes time for that lovemaking, maybe it's functional. And I hate to use the word functional in lovemaking. We've all had sexuality where we walk away and go, I really love this person and I really desire and I love making life with them and going on vacation and maybe having children or finances, everything flows. And I believe that's a big part is the polarity, right? Like when they're similar, when your polarities aren't very disparate, it's easy to get along and do all those things and have your ease of tasks, like being able to accomplish tasks is very easy. Communication is very easy. But again, the lovemaking maybe isn't as strong. Mm-hmm. Is there ways of getting in touch with that and understanding the opposite yin or yang, as you spoke about, that can transform that relationship and bring that sexuality to much higher peaks? Is it chemistry, or can it also be a skill to bring that polarity?
It's
maybe
both.
The real question.
Like, we should never ignore the chemistry. The chemistry is of supreme importance. And at the same time, there are many skills to be learned. And that's where Tantra comes in. Like, if we start bringing methods of meditation which include lovemaking, into our relationship, we can transform the relationship profoundly, and we can reach a level of fulfillment that many people only dream about. And it is there within our reach, but there needs to be basic chemistry, otherwise it will not function. So that's where those electromagnetics come in that I speak about in the human design, because the human design will just tell you how many electromagnetics you have, what are the possibilities for passion in this relationship. Because I've seen couples, sometimes they get together, they love each other tremendously, they have a lot of dedication, they really want to go on the journey together, but maybe in their human design there's no electromagnetics. They will never be compatible sexually. It will not happen. And I've seen this over and over again. And I'm not a human design analyst. I can't claim to know everything about human design. But my sister is a human design master. And so over the years, I've been introduced to how it functions. I've seen her give readings to so many people, couples. And because I've been teaching couples and they go for the reading, then they come back, they tell me this. And then I see directly what that means in their relationship, because I'm working with them very deeply about their relationship, about their sexuality. So I see the effect, and I see clearly, okay, if there's no electromagnetics, it never functions. We can do everything we want, it will never function. If there are electromagnetics, yes, there is passion, then we can work with it and we can help that couple to go to the stars and back. But there needs to be that basic chemistry.
And when you say chemistry and you're saying electromagnetic, is that literally do you perceive it as actual electromagnetism in the
Is
is is it pheromones? Is it
Yes,
like, you know,
we should never
how do you
underestimate
describe
our
it?
biology, never underestimate the power of it. We are ruled by our biology. Even if we think, yes, we humans and we're above all that and we can decide and whatever it is with our mind. No, you are not deciding with your mind. I give you an example of this, that there was a study done where there were five very beautiful women, equally beautiful, different but very beautiful. The five photographs were shown to a wide range of men, and they were asked to choose which woman you would be attracted to, which woman you want to go to sexually. They all chose the same woman, and that was the only woman who was ovulating at the time the picture was taken.
No.
This is showing you how strong the biology is. So we are nothing, meaning our rational mind is nothing compared to our biology. The biology is directing us from underneath. Now take the male brain, for example. The male brain has what we could call two compartments. One is for deeply bonded, intimate sexual relationship that includes love and making family and lasting longer in the time. Another box is all about promiscuity, or we could say opportunist sex. And this is created by our biology, probably to help sustain the species. So, for example, many times a day, a man is programmed by his brain to wish to see body parts of women. By body parts, not the whole naked woman. Maybe the curve of the shoulder, the beauty of the back of the neck, the sweep of the hair, the hip, maybe the ankle, maybe the shape of the bum, the curve of the breast. So all of these are giving signals to his brain, which is firing testosterone. Now, when he sees a woman, within 3 seconds, she's been put into one or the other of those boxes in his brain: opportunist sex, or long-term relationship category, or not interested at all, no interest. So his brain is choosing all the time which of these boxes the woman goes in. And once she's in the box, she doesn't come out of that box. So opportunist sex means just sex, heart not included. You understand? And so this leads to many confusions and misunderstandings between men and women. And the women, on the other hand, have only one box. That is, sex and love go together. There is no separation. So even in today's world, women are trying somehow to be like men and to have opportunist sex, but it doesn't work. They end up feeling very betrayed, miserable, fucked up, because they don't have those two boxes, they have one box. It needs to be heart connected sex, otherwise, it's not fulfilling. There's another discrepancy between men and women, which is that if you have unprotected sex, meaning not using a condom, and the man ejaculates in the woman, he has something in his sperm which is addictive, an addictive drug, which the woman gets addicted to if there is a chemical compatibility. So she will be addicted for 1 month. That means she wants to meet him again. She wants to have sex again. And now in today's world, we say, oh, something is wrong with her. She's getting attached. She's codependent. And she's blamed for that. It's her biology. Her biology is saying you have to be attached for minimum 1 month to see if you're pregnant. And if you're pregnant, that has to last longer time, because you need a protector when you're going through the vulnerable stages of pregnancy, giving birth, etc. So biology has fixed it in that way. The woman also has an addictive substance for the man, but it only lasts 3 days. So you see the discrepancy. And when we don't understand these differences in each other, it leads to a lot of grief, misunderstanding, misery, suffering, unnecessarily. We blame each other. No, this is stupid. We need to listen to our biology, understand it, and act accordingly. So just take care of how you step into this whole world of sexuality and relating. Be more educated. And of course, if we look around the world, the education system around sexuality is practically nil. It almost doesn't exist at all. It's ridiculous. And so, because of all that misinformation and uneducated quality that people carry, we go in blindly, we groping in the dark in this whole field, and we just going into suffering and misery for no reason.
It's interesting to hear that. I love hearing about the biology. And it's interesting for me because when I didn't know anything about Tantra in the beginning, and I grew up very religious, and sexuality with so much shame. You don't talk about it, you don't do it, you don't masturbate, you don't have sex before marriage. It's ungodly, it's a sin. And part of my journey was going into the Tantra world, was starting to learn these about Tantra in like little 2-3 hour seminar workshops, and then going into an ISTA workshop, which was extremely intense, and then going in and then being part of that world for a long time, where sexuality was much more about opening and feelings, and it was about the emotional, building emotional intelligence. But what I saw go along with that was, in many ways, was sexuality being, even though it was more heart centered, it was also much more casual in a way, or it wasn't as tied to relationships. Like sexuality was detached to this norm of white picket fence, marriage forever. And it was more of being in the moment, checking in, what do I want now, etc. And it's been interesting for me because I've actually come full circle back to monogamy and away from any open relating, and more into a desire for devotion and understanding in a meeting, of a high level meeting, which also, for me, that Tantra path took me in a full circle. It took me away from the original idea and into this much different space, and then right back, but with what I believe is a healthier perspective on it. And I'm curious where you are with so many years of this. And I'm imagining in the Osho community, there's a lot of opened thinking around sexuality. And in Tantra in general, there's a lot more openness around thinking outside of meet your person, have a family, have babies, never have sex with anyone else. Where are you now in that journey of monogamy, open, etc.?
So you are mentioning Ista, and as far as I know, they define themselves as the path of sexual shamanism. So
Yes.
I wouldn't say that is Tantra. So I wouldn't mix up the two paths. Yeah. If Tantra is only Tantra, if it is based in meditation, is the foundation of all Tantra practice. If you look at for example, the scripture known as the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, it has 112 methods of tantric meditation, and those cover the full range of all life experience, including sexuality. But within those 112, there's only 6 which deal specifically with sexuality. The other ones cover all the other aspects of our life experience. So Tantra will include sex, but it also includes everything else that we are. And it's always in the context of methods of meditation. By practicing the method, we open our innate wisdom around that particular subject. So each of the methods is a portal into enlightened consciousness by bringing awareness to that life experience. And as I said again, that includes sex, but it's not only about sex. So that just to make it very clear, the difference. Now, if you, like in terms of Osho's community and the free sexual exploration, again, yes, free exploration was happening in the context of meditation. So this is where a lot of people have misunderstood Osho. Oh, he's the sex guru. They are forgetting that he is teaching the path of enlightenment through meditation, which includes sexuality. And so people were exploring sex in many different varied ways. And that could be that they're into the experiment, the love experiment of being monogamous. Maybe somebody else is experimenting with playing the field, being with different partners. Maybe somebody else is experimenting with celibacy. And I've done all of that within that context of meditation and in Osho's community. So sometimes being in a very deep monogamous relationship, other times experimenting with open relationship, other time being celibate, and so on and so forth. It takes many forms. So what each person needs to do is to tune themselves. What is my soul calling at this time in my life? What kind of love experiment do I want to explore? Know that that love experiment is part of your spiritual path. It's part of your awareness practice. And you do it very consciously. If you're playing around with multiple partners, do it very consciously. Make it a meditation practice. If you are celibate, let that be a meditation practice. Grow and evolve through that. If you are in monogamy, make that a very profound meditation practice. How are you growing and evolving as an embodied soul through this practice? And it will change in your lifetime. It will change. The love experiment changes. We need to make space for that.
Do you feel like in your exploration, you found what works for you the best?
Once I tasted the incredible high that intimate relationship could bring me to, and when I say high, I mean an integrated high, a sustained high, then I really prefer monogamy. Because through that, I can bond with another and go deeper and deeper together, higher and higher also. It becomes a journey. So if you go on a pilgrimage and you just take part of the pilgrimage and then you jump off and you haven't made it all the way through, that's not so interesting as doing the whole pilgrimage. till you reach to that sacred place that you've been seeking. So when we go deeper in intimacy, we can go all the way to the sacred place together. And I find that utterly fulfilling. But at other times in my life, I've been enjoying also playing. I remember one time I did a love experiment, which was, I don't want to know the name of the man or his personality. To me, he is simply the divine masculine, Shiva. So every man is Shiva. That's it. And when I'm with all of those men, I see and perceive and feel only the one divine masculine behind all the personalities. That was my love experiment. It was very powerful. I enjoyed tremendously. And but
How many Shivas did you have,
oh, I just
Sarita? Was this
no, I
years?
just had 5 different lovers.
Uh,
And but I didn't want to know their names. I didn't want to know where they're from. I didn't want to know
wow.
their story. I just want to know this is Shiva. So it was my own personal love experiment. I was taking responsibility for that. I was learning something that I needed on a soul level. You understand? It became a consciousness practice. From there, I flipped into full monogamy. I got married. I was going on a deep path with my partner, deeper and deeper into Tantra. You understand? At another time, I went into celibacy. I was completely celibate. I was fully into that path for a couple of years, and so on and so forth. So I call that love experiments. And this is where freedom comes in. I always remember Osho saying that freedom has a higher value than love. It took me some time to understand that statement. Finally, I came to understand that the freedom means that we are free to explore what is needed by us as a soul on our soul's journey. So, take, for example, somebody who maybe in their past life they were a priest, in this life who was celibate and repressing their sexuality. So, maybe in this life they need to play with more partners. That's just a very simple example. Or maybe somebody was licentious in the past life, in this life they need monogamy, and so on and so forth. We are trying to become whole, and for that we need a full range of different experiences. And whether those experiences happen in this life or past life, it doesn't matter, but we need the full rainbow inside of us, whatever it is. And we need to embrace all these different rainbow colors consciously with awareness. This is what makes all the difference.
I love that. And I love that you've tried it all. And it's interesting to me where you are now and what's working for you at the moment. Do you have any suggestions for couples that have been together for a while? Maybe their sexuality isn't as intimate or as exciting. I've heard things after 3 years, approximately, we start producing more chemicals that bring us more bonding and safety and comfort as opposed to desire, etc. So when we start hitting that phase in a relationship, do you have any suggestions to give to people of practices or books or any of your courses that they should take to maybe ignite that sexuality spark? Because these are people that really love and desire and want to have that high level of connection and meeting in that spiritual sexual space or just a spiritual space in general. Any suggestions for them?
Yes, the thing to understand is the honeymoon hormones last, as you say, 3 years. And that it's like a state of hunger, continuous hunger. You want to bond with the other person. That comes from the strong polarity. So if you've reached to the nesting phase, as you describe, where there's more intimate bonding, not so much polarity, if you want to experience honeymoon hormones again, you need to create the polarity in whatever way you can do it. So it could be by creating space and then coming back together. It could be by making love in a new or unusual way. because many times people get into habits. They only make love in the same position, the same amount of time, the same time of day. It becomes like a routine. You have to break the routine. You have to do something different. So it might mean going and making love in the nature, maybe going to a fancy hotel and having a very romantic time there. Maybe it means being apart for a few days, then coming back together in a romantic spot that you both feel excited to go to. So you are consciously creating that polarity and then coming together. It can also be by practicing Tantra and working very consciously with your polarities, with the yin and the yang, and playing with that through different kinds of tantric meditations. So I've seen so many miracles of couples revamping their whole relationship by doing Tantra practice, and particularly through my 7-level soulmate training, that they move into their sexual dynamic from so many different angles. For example, in the level 1, we're working with the subject of intimacy and conscious communication, as well as tantric lovemaking practices. In the level 2, we're working with chakra system and energy bodies. In the level 3, we're working with senses. In the level 4, we're working with desire, and so on and so forth. So we explore the relationship dynamic from all these different angles. That brings a sense of excitement, newness, creativity, discovery, exploration. That triggers, again, the honeymoon hormones.
So I'm hearing, if the polarity is not there, some ways that you can create it is by creating space and time and that feeling of missing. Second is change whatever routine that you have. Just change it up, make it exciting, make it new. And the third is change the space and make it exciting and new. So essentially, you believe you can create more polarity if it's
Yes.
not there, as long as the base attraction is still there. And the polarity gets a little weak over time. It's like maybe a magnet that's starting to lose its charge. We can recharge
Yes,
it through some
you
of these
can
things and taking your
you can
class.
definitely recharge it. And the good news is you can do, of course, live retreats with me or people from my team, because I have the soulmate training running in Bali as well as in Europe with members of my team. So I'm teaching in Bali and they're teaching in Europe. And also I have online course devoted to this subject, or several online courses that people can take in the comfort of their own home. I also have books, and you can contact my work through anandasarita.com. So this is an easy way to plug in to the world of Tantra.
I love this. And I really want the viewers to know some of your work and what's available. So anandasarita.com, they can go through this training, they can learn about Tantra, they can do soulmate training, and this is for couples. Can you just list the books that you've put out and some of the classes that are available to people? Because I don't know if people understand how long you've been doing this and how much of an expert you are at this. I want them to really understand that.
So I have 2 main books. One is called Divine Sexuality. The other is called Tantra Alchemy. Those are available also through my website or through Amazon. And then I have at least 7 different online courses. One is called Master Lover. Sorry, I just have to get a drink because my throat. Sorry, one
Okay.
minute.
Yeah. We'll pause for a second.
So I have a course called Master Lover online, and also another one which is on Tantra massage. And there's one that's going more into the spiritual connection through sexuality, but includes a spiritual connection. And that's a new online course that I'm developing. And so the title, I'm just trying to remember. It's called Mystic Union, this new one. So it's helping couples who want to travel the path of Tantra that includes sexuality, love, and spirituality. Very beautiful course. And there are other ones, like I have course for women, which is called The Goddess Unveiled, and another one which is also working with women, so women alone courses. And that one is called Emotional, Erotic and Emotional Fulfillment for Women. And then there's some other smaller courses, like there's one opening the third eye for people that are interested in spiritual awakening and they want to open the third eye. So I have a range of courses like this, and it's all happening through my website, anandasarita.com. And of course, I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and all the rest. So you can tune in.
And I'll post those if we do a podcast, and I'll put them in there. Sarita, I have to say, for me, I have been tracking your soulmate training workshop for many years now.
But
And
never attending.
and the reality is my heart desires so much to be with a woman that's hell yes, I want to do that with you. And the reality is I haven't been with someone that was a hell yes to do that, because I've had friends that have done it and have come out so powerful and so much more connected. And really, I've seen it transform a relationship that was a really beautiful connection, but was devoid of very strong sexuality. And I saw it really 180 their relationship. And interestingly enough, I won't mention names, but there was a close friend of mine who went in that was not partnered with anyone, and for the sake of the workshop was partnered with someone, I wouldn't say randomly, but someone else single, and they ended up having a very powerful relationship. So to me, that is testament to whatever you're doing is really working, regardless if it was supposed to work or not. Like whatever these methodologies, it's really, it sounds like it's creating such a deep connection and union. And I really believe I will be there one day with you to experience this. And I'm excited to find that person that is excited to do that with me, and that I can feel devoted to.
So let's talk about the hell yes, because I think this is a very important subject. That a lot of times people are waiting to meet the perfect partner. But what you have to consider is, are you perfect? And
Probably not for me.
basically, we have imperfect human beings who come together to work on themselves and to evolve and to become more the fullness of who they are meant to be, reaching their full potential. So essentially, we are friends on the path as we come together in relationship. And if you stop looking for perfection, knowing that you're also imperfect, this is very helpful for couples to understand, oh, I'm not perfect, so why my partner should be perfect? We're two imperfect beings, but we would like to evolve. We would like to grow together. And all you need is a person who you have chemistry with, who is very committed to working on themselves, and especially through that path of love and relating. And you have a good match there, and you can work with that. You can play with that, and take it playfully also. Oh wow, we're going on to this amazing experiment. Let's see where we go with this.
I love that. And that's interesting to hear, because really that takes away the pressure to finding the perfect partner. And it's just saying, find someone committed to doing the work with you, where there is chemistry and is excited to make that, live that playful life together. In the connection map that I'm creating, I'm saying, if you're within certain parameters, and one of them is playfulness, one of them is intention for life union, or openness for life merging is another way to say it, which is, am I even open in myself to putting my life with this person? Because if the answer is no, and many times that's the real issue with couples, is the real issue with long-term partnership is someone is just not open to having that life merge for whatever reason. they think maybe there's deal breakers in the connection, or maybe they're not as, the attraction's not there, or maybe they don't feel they have enough money, or whatever it is, there is less of an openness for life merging. So find that person that's really excited and is open to merging your life with theirs, and then you and committed to making it work. And that can be your golden relationship, right? If it's within those parameters, and that chemistry, attractions there, and etc., and the sexual alignment and polarity. But what I'm hearing from you is we can play with that, and we can move those dials through things that we can do. And also, I think there's an important concept that you just touched on, which is we're looking for the perfect partner. And really, we should be focusing on, am I the perfect partner or the unperfect partner? And the truth of the matter is, I have spent so much of my life not having the skill set to be an amazing partner. And really, it's sad because maybe I wanted it, but I remember my first marriage, Sarita. I had no idea what a love language was. I had no idea that my partner and my wife felt loved if I give her acts of service, when I could care less if she did the dishes. I just wanted quality time and touch. And for her, if I wasn't showing that quality, so it's like I didn't even have the skills. I didn't have the communication skills. I didn't have basic skills to be a good partner. And a hard lesson was, love is not enough, man. Like, that was a crushing me.
You need skill, which has to be learned, because what biology gives us is enough to procreate so that the species continues. But nature is giving us a template that we can build on. That template is built on by our society, the culture, how we are programmed by that particular culture. And so if the culture doesn't include a balanced sex education, basically people will be miserable. And I think happiness is such a very important human value, which has been underestimated, or in its necessity. Like, we tend to focus more on survival than on happiness. But happiness is all important for quality of life. And for that quality of life to be in its ultimate potency, we need sex education. We need education about how to navigate relationships, not only our sexual relationships, but family dynamics, colleagues at work, etc. We need education around all of this, which doesn't exist. This education doesn't exist. Now, thank God, Tantra is making a comeback. There's a renaissance happening of Tantra, but it's still on the fringe. It's misunderstood. People don't understand much about it at all. And so it's taking time to bring this subject out in a best possible way. Now, I have a theory why there's no education around it, or very little, or a misconstrued kind of education. Because if people are sexually empowered, they will then be free. You will not be able to control them. And of course, in many cultures, they would like for people to be more like sheeps, to be controllable. Just think of a bull. A bull is wild. Nobody can control the bull. But you cut his balls off, he becomes an ox. He will be docile. He will carry your burdens for you. And this castration has been done on an energy level to humanity.
I agree with that. I think that is beautiful. It is about control, right? And like, the more, give me 1 second, please. Yes. Thank you, boss. Sorry, someone's just coming in. It is about control, and the more, if there's people have knowledge and freedom, it takes away the power of others to manipulate and put them and keep them in capitalism, and keep them in thinking they need all these facial creams and must have this dress and these shoes to be desirable, when in reality it's not anything of that. It's the capitalism that can come in. Sarita, as we wind down, one last question. So we know to go to anandasarita.com. What is the one thing, if this is all new to people, where do they start?
I would say it's very good to start reading whatever you can on Tantra, on the subject of Tantra. And of course, I learned with Osho, there are many Osho books devoted to the subject of Tantra. So you could read those. You can also read my books, or go for an online course, or go to a live retreat. Just make sure it is Tantra. So I'm stressing that because there are many things that call themselves Tantra that are not Tantra. So just make sure that the teaching is based in meditation, a Tantra which is based in meditation. Then you will be going on actually the Tantra path. And learn about sexuality also. So there's a range of books that you can read. For example, there's a very beautiful book, Woman's Anatomy of Pleasure by Sherry Winston. There's a book, Vagina, A New Biography by Naomi Wolf, also very important for both men and women. There's a book by Neil Strauss called The Truth. Very powerful book, very helpful for men to navigate all around the male sexuality and love and relating and what it means. And he's detailing through his own lived experience. And I think it's a powerful book for men to read.
So your recommendation is, oh, sorry,
Also,
I
The Male
apologize. There's a
Brain, The
lag.
Female Brain by Joanne Brizendine. Amazing books to understand the chemistry, the biology, how it functions connected to the brain, and so on and so forth. There's a whole education which is out there. You just need to start tapping into that learning.
So tell the audience here, you have only 2 books that they can read to start out with. Is it one of the ones that you mentioned, or which one of your books do they need to go to first? Is it Osho they need to go to? Where do they start?
If you want to read Osho, there's one book which, if all other books on the planet disappeared and I could only choose one, I would choose that one. And this is called The Book of Secrets. And it's Osho speaking on the 112 methods of the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Now, linked to that, I teach the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra in a 3-part series in India every year. So people can go to one part 1 year, one part the next year, one part third year, if they like. That covers the 112 methods as an experiential learning. This is not a couples group. This is a singles group. Couples are welcome, but it's not going to give you meditations that you will go to practice in the bedroom. When I do couples retreats, people literally go to the bedroom to do their practices in their intimacy, and that includes sexual union. Singles groups, I don't do those practices, but we explore so many different aspects of Tantra, which are absolutely mind blowing. And then, if you want to read one of my books, The Divine Sexuality is more focused on sex, and the Tantra Alchemy includes sex, but also includes many spiritual aspects of Tantra, which you can bring into your couple dynamic. So both of those books are very rich and varied, and I think you would get a lot out of them. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarita. Thank you for your time today. I really enjoyed speaking with you and hearing your wisdom and getting to know you better and just seeing. And I just want to say thank you for being such a pillar over the years, especially in a space that is very misunderstood and is very scrutinized and is quite honestly very dangerous. And it creates a target that I'm imagining has been difficult over the years to stand in truth and try to bring some of this knowledge to the world, especially in the time that it wasn't very accepted and is still struggling to be accepted. I think it's getting better now. So Thank you for doing that and being a pillar. And I am looking forward to being in that live workshop with you and the soulmate training with someone that I want to be a soulmate with and wants to be a soulmate with you. And I hope that sooner than later that I'll be there with you. Is there anything in closing that you feel like you have anything pressing you still want to say or get out to the world?
I feel so happy that we could connect today and very positive about what we're
Yeah.
sharing. I think we went really on a journey together, and I hope that this will benefit many people. I hope that your podcast will reach to millions of people and they can be touched and benefited and move in a positive direction. This is my sincere prayer that human beings can live our
Mm.
full potential as radiant, embodied divinity.
I hope I can get a little bit closer to that radiant embodied divinity every day. And conversations like these and looking at these paths can help us bring us there. Ananda Sarita, thank you very much for your time. And thank you for everyone listening and watching. And I hope it's been a pleasurable time and everyone's learned
Yeah.
something. So, everyone, have an amazing day. Thank
Bye.
you guys very much.